Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to RLAfterShock, the show that used to be the longest-running independent podcast for everything that is Rocket League esports in the European scene. But as you're about to find out this week, we're not going to be talking much about EU, as a matter of fact. Fuck me, so much has gone down across the world of Rocket League, man, in the last 2 weeks. And yes, we did have a break a couple weeks ago. Whoops, just knocking shit over on my desk. Yes, we did have a break a couple weeks ago, obviously. Some big news went out we couldn't cover at the time, so consider this one the catch-up week of September 2019. I'm the Eternal J. Joining me is Digital Bacon, as he always seems to do, all across the place as well.
That's because you asked me to, so don't don't diss me when it's you that straight there.
I did ask you to appear on Aftershock, but I didn't ask you to appear on all the other shit that we do together. You know, that's a lot of work, man.
That's just work, dude. That's like you get two casters that work together, and naturally you keep working together because it's a working duo, so allow it. Just you're locked in, and trust me, it hurts me more than it hurts you. You.
Thanks.
Jesus.
Thank you so much. On today's show, Rocket League goes Tokyo. The World Championship has been announced. There's drama in the OCE region. And, of course, we have the RLRS Play-ins coming this weekend. So, of course, we're breaking that down in full with all of the best teams from the European bubble scene as we go for our predictions, our notable squads, and who do we think is actually going to make it into the RLRS this season. 8 spots up for grabs, so plenty to be held by the bubble scene. Let's do the news to kick things off, though, and we start with a news piece that's a little bit old, but we had to, of course, talk about it because this little thing came out from the Esports Observer and Intel, and the ESL boys have announced a brand new little tournament circuit. I guess you could say tournament
only
as a
whole. Only a
whole.
tiny tournament, really.
Only a tiny tournament, you know. Only an Olympic-backed $500,000 tournament. You know, only small, but you know, there you go. That's the Intel World Open, a Olympic-backed initiative to bring Street Fighter and Rocket League to the Tokyo 2020 Olympics. It's not quite the Tokyo 2020 Olympics directly, but it's tied in sort of, you know, with a little bit of Olympic backing, which is something that a lot of people have been asking for fucking ages. I think that's actually a really cool sort of like initiative overall. I'm not too sure about how the Olympic Committee came to that conclusion, considering their arrogant level of anti-esports sort of you know, sort of like an anti-esports sort of initiative. But do you know what? I'm happy that we're seeing this, at least from the surface level, you know?
Yeah, so everyone knew this was on the cards because it's been talked about for ages, and they trialled this with the Winter Olympics that took place over in Korea.
Pyeongchang,
would be, last year, was that? I think that was StarCraft 2.
Yeah, I think it was the year before. It was the IEM Pyeongchang event, which...
It'd been 2018, Jay. Because the winter and summer
Olympics,
are
of course, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. You're right about that. So yeah, it would have been last year. So there you go. Not a bad sort of like, you know, way for Intel to progress things. Obviously going from StarCraft to a game that's a little bit more commercially not commercially viable in terms of the traditional gaming industry, but certainly more commercially viable when it comes to presenting the world of esports to the traditional sort of Olympic audience. And for that reason, I like this idea.
Well, what other options do you have that aren't violent, really? Like Street Fighter,
well, look, right,
there's
Street
no blood in it
already,
compared to like Mortal Kombat and all that.
Street Fighter's already stretching the idea of no violence because, you know, it's in the name, Street Fighter, but Rocket League obviously is completely safe and it's absolutely fine.
Your only other option would be a sports game like FIFA, and that's probably got a little bit of bounds because EA are very heavy-handed on that, so... I can understand why they just went to Rocket League. I'd imagine Sonic straight went, yes, where do we sign? Where do we go on this? Where?
I hope they did, because that might just give ESL the chance to take control of this one, because, yes, this is going to be the first premier event that ESL will be running in association with Rocket League, of course, sponsored by Intel and all the boys over there that, of course, have been running the Intel Extreme Masters circuit for fucking decades now. You know, they are such old-school sponsors of the esports and scene that it can only give me like good vibes about this whole thing. The only thing I really don't think I'm a fan of is the whole like international or national team construction sort of thing that they have to do, because I believe the rules at the moment say that you have to have 3 players from one nationality, which of course wrecks most of the existing landscape. Sorry?
Like, you've got to understand that, though. With the Olympics, it is trying to be nation-based. And they're not saying, you know, you can only have 1 team per nation, I do believe. You can have multiple teams. So that gives a lot of opportunity for France to have, like, I don't know, probably 8 teams in the final. Sorry, 7, because there'd be 7 French teams and the 1 Japanese team that gets an automatic spot in there.
Well, of course, this also means that there's going to be a bunch of let's try again. A bunch of representatives from many different nations, one of which, of course, should be Japan being the host country, which, of course, is really exciting for the Asian scene because they've been needing something like this to really prop up their current situation as well. It's not only the Tokyo Live Finals as well, there'll also be a grand final, a regional final, I believe, in Katowice. A live qualifying event to be held in Katowice in June, so the month before the actual finals of the World Open. So this will be a very interesting little time. I'm trying to speak to some people in ESL, try to see if I can secure a little bit of, obviously a fucking course I am, mate. But in Katowice as well. Again, that's where the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship is held. That's a very represented city in the course of esports history. So ESL have offices and of course a studio out there. So I'm pretty excited to see how well that goes. Bacon, I'm gonna be looking forward to this one. And again, it's such a big thing to have and already a big sort of tournament announced for the 2020 circuit.
Yeah, and of course, way in advance. This gives us a lot to look forward to, naturally. Like, this is naturally a surprise to us as Rocket League fans. We're used to announcements being at most 2 months ahead of time, but this being so far ahead and seemingly having a good structure. They did a lot of the further announcements through a page on the Intel site and all of that, which actually detailed the whole breakdown and such. So them being very open, clear, and you can tell they've been working on this for a good amount of time, to get everything pat down. This is super promising, and really an international tournament like this, literally a World Cup essentially, because it is nation-based, I think is ultra cool, and it's going to be different. And I would love to see how they handle players of different organizations. Let's just take, we do England, for example. It'd probably be a Team GB. I'd imagine they'll try and do that to fall in with the Olympics. Let's say Speed of Mouse Sports. You've got Scrub Killer of Vitality, and let's go with Tadpole because he's well suited for into the Team GB. How they do that as the Team GB, but from 3 different orgs. Mouse, Vitality, and now Method. Might have just spoiled something, Jay, and I didn't even realize. Sorry.
It's okay. I think the people watching this show will already be aware of most of the news, but we'll come to that in a second because, of course, just to close out the thoughts about the Intel and the ESL World Open, I feel like this is also a great opportunity to get ESL through the door in terms of Rocket League competition. Like we talked for ages about the idea of having an ESL 1 or an IEM event for Rocket League because it would just be such a sick fucking thing, and I think this could be the opening. This could be the opportunity for Psyonix to look at this and say, okay, yes, this is an option, and this is also pretty viable, and ESL are a good bunch of dudes who know the lay of the land. So I'm excited for that whole thing. I'm also excited about the second event that got talked about. You talk about World Cup, I'm going to talk about a World Championship, because World's Finals have been announced, and we're going to motherfucking Madrid. Oh, yeah, baby. Is back in EU for another World Championship. I do also want to make a quick disclaimer, by the way. Fuck you, Failius, for making that tweet on the Aftershock Twitter account. For those of you who don't follow us on Twitter, at RLAfterShock. As soon as this got announced, what he did, he's our social media manager, what he did was he went straight to the tweet, quote tweeted it, and said, 1 like, and we'll do a show live from Madrid. Mm-hmm. And of course, him being the genius that he was, he liked that same tweet with the Aftershock account. So cheers, mate. Absolute fucking legend. Unfortunately, we can't do that because we're going to be working on that particular weekend. A completely different event, unfortunately, which again makes complete sense because it's the World Championship of Rocket League, but this has all been scheduled prior to loads and ages in advance. So, there's not really much that we can do about that. So there will be no live show from Madrid. Apologies for the lies printed by my staff members. I will make sure that they are disciplined appropriately. But outside of that, there is plenty to be excited for. Again, we're back in Europe. We are going to Madrid, the second event, the second major in Rocket League that will be held in Spain. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, and just because of that, I think, Jay, we're going to have to try and get some sort of viewing party together or something. Try and do something going on, because we most likely be in London for this event. We don't know where the venue is. So if we can try and get a viewing party together, we will, for all the lads, of course, from London. And if you're anywhere close in the UK, try and get out to that, because, we're proper sad on this. Of course, like, we're working and we're happy to be working. But it was just like, fuck, when it sort of overlapped. That was pretty much it.
Yeah, man, like it was like it sucks so bad, because obviously, like, we had already accepted the job, and obviously we're going to accept the job going forward, because it's money for us. We have to make a living. So seeing that, and obviously we can't go to the World Championship, so that's just a bit of a shame. But we'll have to set something up for certain. Like, if you're going to be in that London area, we might contact Meltdown or some shit and try to see if we can hold like an unofficial sort of viewing party. That'd be pretty sick. I'd love to go to Meltdown, man. Just even then, I might.
There's
invite
a good few bars around London where they would be able to do that.
We'll see what's going down on the weekend, but we will be sure to post anything of any sort of plans on the Twitter, again, at RLAfterShock. But for now, look forward to Madrid. And if you can go to Madrid, flights are surprisingly cheap. We had to take a look at it ourselves. So if you can get out there, I recommend you get out there, because it's going to be real fun.
Now.
And book now.
Your flights now. You can always get tickets. On the live streams, for people that wondered, and they always go, we've sold out the stadium. No, it's not sold out. You can always get tickets. Don't worry, because it's not that large an event. So get your flight straight away, because it's going to be cheaper to book them now. And then once the tickets come out, that's when you get your tickets. And at the same time, booking your flights, try and get your Airbnb, because essentially there will be a sudden demand naturally with this event going on, so all prices will rise the later you leave it.
Indeed, yes. There are 15,000 tickets to sell, by the way, according to the capacity for the Palacio Vistalegre, which I think is how you say it in thing, So, make sure you get out there, make sure you get those tickets, make sure you fucking make it happen, because unfortunately we can't, even though we absolutely could. But yes, that is, of course, the Rocket League Championship Series World Championship in Madrid from December 13th to the 15th. Make sure you've marked that in your calendars. We certainly will, because we're going to be working that weekend, so it's already down.
Actually, Jay, if anyone wants, a 4K picture of both of us to do a cardboard cutout and put in the stadium, I'll be happy to supply that, just to be there in spirit. Someone wants to do that.
I'm going to budget up sending a team out there. There you go. That's fine. It's okay. We'll represent Aftershock. We'll get Aftershock representation. Boots on the fucking ground. Trox, you need to slide into my DMs later tonight. Right, let's move on and talk about our next piece of news. A bit of a sad one coming in from our boy Doomsee, your best mate, Bacon. He has officially retired. Officially, unofficially. Officially, he's still registered on his team. But of course, he can't really play in that team because he's been benched on that team. So he's essentially just said, this is going to be it for me. It's been a good time, Doomsee. Unfortunately, the results just weren't coming in. He had a really nice stint. The last really big team and good team he had was probably #United when he was coaching that particular side. And it would have been nice if he transitioned into a coaching role, but he wanted to keep playing, and the end result kind of ended up essentially this coming through. So the end of his playing career is coming out. And I'm sure you probably known about this for a while, Bacon. Again, you being close mates with the guy. What's your thoughts, I think?
Probably the last 2 months this has been on the cards for Ryan. And you talk back to that #United role. The large reason he went on to becoming a coach was he had that... what's the problem where your joints really start stiffening up? He had that with his
carpal tunnel.
Carpal tunnel, that sort of thing, yeah. And so he actually had to have a thumb brace and all that, so he literally could not play Rocket League. So straight from that point, that's generally a problem that becomes reoccurring. So he had a lot of trouble with that, getting back up the hours, and of course, naturally, where he's a super competitive dude and you're not at the top of the game, it really sucks and becomes disheartening. I can imagine a lot of old school players are probably dealing with this same problem. So I'd imagine you'll probably see him a bit like, we've just seen Marky Dudar come back in the game. Probably next RLRS, he'll find a team sign up, but Rocket League is not his focus. He's not taking a lot of enjoyment from the game. So expect to see him transition. I think he's really got into streaming once again, which was funny because in the old days, he enjoyed YouTube because he could do it in his own time, but didn't enjoy streaming. Now it's flipped around because, your taste in what you like to do a change. So, go support the lad if you see him streaming. And I imagine he'll probably be streaming not Rocket League, but whatever he finds is just fun and relaxing and just basically a chill out, talk with chat sort of deal.
Yeah, I think I can see Doomsey's a decent streamer. He's really entertaining. You know, we had him on RLAfterShock back during the original World's Prediction show, which was a fucking fun time. If you haven't listened to that show, then I recommend you do, just to really highlight how knowledgeable and how entertaining he really is. You know, he could very easily transition to being a caster if he wanted to, an analyst.
So
I wouldn't recommend it because European casters and analysts have no fucking work. But, you know...
we're a lot lucky than other guys in Europe. Know it.
Yeah, like, we are lucky to have the brunt of all the work, so we ain't gonna let it go, bitch.
Plus, I know Ryan doesn't actually really enjoy casting.
I was gonna say, I mean, I think you may have mentioned this before, where you said that he doesn't. It's not really something he wants to pursue, which of course is fair enough. Not everyone's cut out to be a caster, so you know, if he doesn't want to do it, then that's absolutely fine. I'm just saying
Rocket
that
League's not in a state to have personalities, is it? Really, at this point, there's not that sort of income there. Like, if naturally there was a Beyond the Summit going on, like let's say every few months, like on the reoccurring schedule, like that DreamHack had, he could fit in quite nicely there because that'd be perfect for him on the sofa. Hence with the Valencia B stream where he did that with Stumpy, and it was more of just a relax, give your thoughts on it, not really casting. That's the role he could fill, and he would enjoy that. But actual traditional commentating, traditional casting, he doesn't really like doing that.
Well, on that note, I actually do want to ask, in terms of like the competitive, you know, landscape of Rocket League. Obviously, streaming doesn't really count in competitive Rocket League. Where do we think Doomsee could go if he wanted to keep up with the competitive nature? Do you think he would be looking into a coaching role? I know is he doing this Epic Land thing, by the way? Does he accept that or?
No.
He didn't. Okay.
Not from what I know. Anyway, he was thinking about that at that point, but he doesn't really enjoy coaching as well because, like. Generally in Rocket League at the moment, it's strange because the players that he would go on the coach, your RLRS guys, look at him and go, well, I'm stronger than you. Why am I taking tips and that? It's a very arrogant nature within Rocket League. And, you know, if you're trying to coach and you're fighting up against a brick wall, that's not enjoyable at all. And so I could see him hooking up to the next
but a guy like
game.
Doomsee, though, like, how can people like not have any respect for someone like Doomsee? You know, he's the founder of the Doomsee dish, for fuck's sake. You know, like
because 15, 16-year-olds, Jay, they're arrogant little pricks. It's just the way it is. Very generalised.
Doomsee's got the clout, man. Anyone who doesn't respect Doomsee, fucking send him to my way, and I'll rough him up a little bit. I'll sort him out for him.
You can't rough up a cabbage. Moving on to the next point.
What the fuck you, fuck you, mate. But just to close out the Doomsee, topic. Let's again. I think probably like our statement's probably thank you, Doomsee, for all the shit you've done for us. You know, in the Rocket League scene. If you ever want anything to do in Rocket League, then come hit me up. I can sort you out something with RLAfterShock. You know, there's probably some sort of show we'd like to have you on as a guest or something, or some sort of prediction game. You know, it would be fantastic again just to have you back in the scene, because I think a lot of people are going to miss Doomsee. You know, I think I'm going to miss Doomsee. You won't, because you get to see the guy every other day, so it's fine. But you know. It sucks, but yeah, I think a lot of us kind of saw it coming after recent performances. So, thank you, Doomsee, and let's move on and talk about a team that have picked up a player out of the Rocket League pit of freelance. Method have added Tadpole to their lineup. I think we got this information about a couple of weeks ago, or at least a good month ago or so.
So
it was
this was
back.
a low key one. Like, he got added to their website. You know, they put their rosters on the website, so he got added to that, and then it must have been a week later they put out an actual official tweet for it. And this was one we sort of, I would say, in a lot of sense, didn't expect, because you thought Method would have had their roster a bit sooner, and the thought was that it'd be Ignite joining the Method roster, but instead he's going with Fadeaway. So this really, I'm gonna say, like, Tadpole has just got like the redemption, because naturally he's joining a squad, so he's going to get a salary for it. And Method's a solid org. They've been in Rocket League for ages. I don't see them leaving anytime soon. And he's a third man, so hopefully he can just let, you know, Brita B and Rix Ronde do their thing, which is generally fucking over each other anyway.
Yeah, I was going to say, right? I was going to say, like, if you wanted to weigh up this team in the grand scale of Rocket League, like, are you sure Tadpole fixes anything with Method? Because they still got this fucking issue with Burrito. If we say it every time we talk about Method, because there has been no improvement with this side when it comes to that particular chemistry. That was always what it was. Rick's Ronde and Burrito be the dynamic duo and the third man that always could finish off the job. And when you break down the dynamic duo, then the third man that finishes off the job has absolutely no relevance in that respect because the duo is not fucking working. And I feel like again, they are just continuing just to cycle in players to figure out can they sort it out.
Yeah, it's got to be a hold season. Then next season they bring in someone new, and that's either Rix or Burrito B being replaced. I'd imagine it's going to be Burrito B getting the naff end of the stick on that one, just because of how it is. But who knows? The org should. Like, you'd hope the org could have a bigger say in things where they get the players being a bit disrupted like that and going, right, we need to step in and sort that out. But with how Rocket League is, orgs generally just leave them be.
I mean, that's more just how esports is in general, because this happens in Counter-Strike all the fucking time as well. You know, they just brought back Fnatic. Just brought back their one of their old in-game leaders just for that very fucking reason, because like the players decided, no, we don't need you, and then they completely needed him. You know, then they just had to like turn back and try and save a little bit of face.
Hey, at least Alexi B went over the Cloud9. That'd be a cool move. That's just like the big sort of like try and get a name.
Cloud9 are in the shit. That's a discussion for another podcast.
Yeah,
back to Tadpole and back to Method. Do we think Method can at least stay in the RLRS for another season? Because if they can, I can see an opportunity for Tadpole to sort of like work around this roster and try and find a new way to flip the switch almost, you know?
Like, I'm just trying to quickly check. I don't think we mentioned Method later on today. No, we don't. Because this is a team that has not been...
They're already in the RLRS, though.
That's it. They're not having to fight through. So for me, this is going to be another season where Tadpole, yes, gets a very, I'm going to say, lucky spot because it's a team that's already in there and they've just got to hold on. They're going to have to come... I don't even know how this is going to work for next season. Is it top 6 stay up or is it top 4? I can't remember.
It will be top 2 promote, 3rd through 6th stay in, 7th through 10th relegate.
Okay, and that's not top 2 promote, automatically promote. They go
into the promotion playoffs.
Like, they're secured it, and then 3rd to 6th go into a pre-playoff bit, ain't it? It's like a...
Oh, yeah, I forgot about the playoffs. Fuck me.
It's a silly format, and I don't know why they've made it so complicated. But anyway, yeah, so their idea is the whole top 6, which this is a roster that has done it many times in the past. They should be able to do it again.
Well, I mean, again, I don't hold as much stock in Method anymore. Again, just down to that Burrito B-Rix Ronde situation. Like, it has just gotten progressively worse. That's my problem right now. So if it gets any more worse, then I don't see them making it into the next season. If they stay in the next season, though, then one of those 2 players have to change. If not, Method are dead. You know, that's what I'm just going to say right now.
Comes in, he's more of a captain and just basically, you know, turns up and goes, right, you look 2 little shits, this is what you're going to do right now. And you don't do that, we're out of RLRS. So you're probably going to do it because we want to stay in RLRS and stay signed to an org and get paid, you know, play a good bit of Rocket League. Right, let's go.
Fair play.
That's what I hope anyway.
Well, I'm hoping the same thing as well, but you also got to remember that Rix Ronde is also the main captain for Method. You know, he always has been since the Reason Gaming days. You know,
Captains can change.
Captains can change as well, but I don't know if
Counter-Strike, in-game leaders change all the time between teams.
And not actually as often as you think. It's only when teams get really desperate just not to change their players that they don't fucking do that.
Well, you get a player that's just a bit too arsey, but...
Yeah, I mean, look, right, I feel like I don't feel like Rix is ready just to just let it go, and you just be like, yeah, no, I'll let you be captain. To be the new boy, have this opportunity. Like, you know, players don't usually work like that. They have egos bigger than my fucking house, you know. So like, there's there's that to consider with the Method move. And again,
the weirdest analogy I've ever heard. Because it'd work if you lived in a mansion, dude. But like,
right, houses are still pretty fucking big, right? You know,
they're
like
decent size.
I'd like to think my house is above average size. You know, the other things as well.
I'm just saying it's a weird analogy to bring up.
Right. Final closing thoughts on Method. I just want to say that I hope the long-term strategy is for Tadpole to come in and Rix or Burrito to just move out. You know, one of those 2 players just need to get out. It's not working. It's not fucking working, boys.
Like, me on that is just hoping that Tadpole can look at them 2 and fix them. And that is pretty much it, because this is a team that did work. They worked as a duo, and then it was just like the last 2 seasons, they haven't really worked. Don't get me wrong, they're still holding up top 4, but this was a team, you know, you look 3 seasons ago and you're like, oh, this is a team that could sneak into RLCS, you know? And that just has never happened. They've always been that 3rd, 4th. This season, I can expect them to finish about 5th, 6th maybe, just because the upcoming talent is just so harsh.
Indeed it is. Right, let's move on and talk about some other good news from the surface, and then there's a few more little intricacies you also want to get into on the show. But this little thing came out. This is a fantastic video by SubPar but in HD. Of course, our boys at Cole and Stumpy. Shout outs to you guys. Every now and again, they do this thing where they to the TRLCS, which is basically the Team Rocket League casted series.
They're great fun for anyone.
They're great fun. There's something for the SubPar community. You know, if you're a sub to their channel, then of course you can go ahead and just play some Rocket League, and they'll cast it for you on their stream. It's a great little thing. It's nothing too massively competitive, but this little fucking video went out just the other day, and this blew my mind because I remember a while back we were having a discussion about the idea of having overlays in. And like, you know, to display boost and fucking mini maps.
We even did
shit.
a feature on it.
Yeah, we did a whole feature back in, I can't remember which episode it was. It must have been in its 30s or something. But we talked about some of the designs put up by Stranger and a couple other guys about how you would construct that. And I said, well, and I said specifically, I was like, if you can find a way just to, translate the data that they send over from Rocket League from the client into a HTML plugin or a JavaScript, then you can make this happen. Well, SubPar fucking met me at my word, and they did it. They actually created this little custom overlay that will be in use on TRLCS this Sunday. This thing looks sick. It is literally everything I wanted out of something like this sort of plugin. You know, giving a player boost overview, a mini map to sort of like show off where the players are at. All this information now at the disposal of the viewer and of the caster. And this is the perfect thing. This is exactly what I wanted to see out of a plugin or a mod just like this, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And like the only thing I can actually I would say put down on the entire thing, it's just the placement of the map. But there's no better place to put it. It's just, naturally it's a little bit distracting down there. But again, that's just because of how Rocket League.
I wonder how that would work in post-goal replays, though. Is it like a little bit low, or is it just is it low enough to just cut it off, or I don't know?
Like realistically, the best place to put it would be to do something like where the box with all the stats bottom left is, just to replace that mini map. Like, if you could do that, of course you can't do that with this plugin, but I'm just saying, like, that would be the ideal place to put it. Now, this has been something the community have been wanting, and bloody hell, at Dan Bergholt.
Yep.
Shout him out on channel. Dan MB, as he always goes by in like their server, and that is an absolute lad for putting this together, because it really shows like this is what the community wants, and we're driven to create. And
that is possible to do it, by the way.
Yes, that the stats are there, the game is recording it, because you got to think this is like near enough taking stuff from the client side. So the client side is registering what other people are doing, and that's super interesting for us to look at, especially with map location and that, and how it's all. I would love to get like his explanation of how everything works, but at the same time, that sort of falls into a bit of a dodgy area, doesn't it, Jay?
Yeah, I believe we've already had a couple attempts at this to try and do something like that. I definitely know that you have, Bacon. I'm sure you'll share that story in a couple seconds. But there has been the issue that, of course, James Bot brought up in, if you scroll down in that tweet, you'll find him sort of asking, couldn't people use this to cheat? Which... In theory, yes, you could if you wanted to get a little bit extra information on where their boost numbers are. It could affect your decision making, which kind of does take away some of the secrecy element of the of the game. But as far as I'm aware, like this could very easily sort of be fixed with a simple patch if Psyonix wanted to put it out, just to say, right, only spectators get to know the boost numbers of other players. And, because, I mean, in the end, the information isn't even shown in the game when you're playing on a team, so why does it even need to be sent to those teams? Like, we do that in the spectator client on Counter-Strike, for example. If you join the spectator slot, you can get all this information, but that information doesn't load if you are in the... or the game never receives it if you are playing on one of the teams. This is also directly in the server. This has nothing to do with GoTV. This is all direct from spectator slots. And obviously, Rocket League works in spectator slots, so it wouldn't be that difficult of a thing to implement, I wouldn't say. That being said, though, Psyonix tend to think otherwise. Bacon, do you want to share Or
So this is one that we can look at Psyonix and just go, we know they're going to have a problem with this. Like you said, Jay, this would, for me, come down to Psyonix having to work with communities, having to get basically in touch with Dan and work out how to do this, because I could see this quite easily being picked up by someone that has nefarious means, cheaters, hackers, whatever you want to call them, and put this on. So essentially, with the Bacchus mod overlay, you could just be playing in ranked or whatever and get your opponent's information, because this, you can imagine as a player, would be a massive tool to know who's got what and when you can aggress and be a lot more aggressive. Yes, it's not mechanically changing your game, but at the same time, it's that mental aspect, and knowledge is power in stuff like this. Don't get me wrong, I am fucking loving this. I know a couple of orgs are looking into what this is, and especially there's been one other developer. I don't actually know his name, just because I know the orgs have been working on it, and I can see they're just keep your eyes tuned. There should be actual big official tournaments and that coming up soon that could be using extended stuff, but this is one which I think we're going to have a Wild West action happening with this, and there probably will be big blowbacks with the community on this sort of stuff, because Psyonix will have to get their butts in gear and sort of arrange this, whether it comes down they lock it, and what I hope is they lock it near enough out, but then put some sort of API access code, which would just give you the server code, when you make a private lobby, Jay. Yeah. And it'll give you an API code which you could plug in. For me, that would probably be the best answer for this, and you'd lock out every information that can be put through, because that's just the safest. But bar that, it would have to be somehow locking it out from, if you're in a player mode perspective, and only there for coaches or teams or anyone that's in the spectator role. Because naturally for scrims, if you had a good, gentleman's agreement with two coaches watching this in the spectator slot, that could be a massive tool for coaches to help with their teams as well. At the same time, we're not just talking tournaments here, but across the whole board, this could be awesome to develop Rocket League.
Well, from there, the debate continues. It's in a scrim, how much information should one be allowed to be able to utilize? I mean, obviously, they won't be able to get into the spectator slots or anything like that during an official match. Obviously, it doesn't quite work like that. I mean, I think. Did you mention the Psyonix have already blocked off on this one, or?
There's been problems in the past, with if anyone can remember back to right in the early days of tournaments, and I'll just take Rival as the example, where they changed up maps by recoloring the pitch and all of that. Modding in an official tournament sense, Psyonix has a problem with. And I can understand why.
But this is modding for broadcast, though, not modding for the context of trying to gain an advantage. This is exclusively for the sake of streamer.
No, that was for broadcast as well.
Oh.
That was purely for...
Well,
that was only the streamer
it didn't stop Logitech from modifying the ball when they did that Japanese tournament. They didn't shut that down at all. Do you remember that, Bacon, that little clip?
Again, that was used in Alpha Console, I do believe, for that as well. And again, that would have been a case of Logitech just didn't tell Psyonix about it, and Psyonix just no, and that's a one-off event. We'll just keep it quiet on that. But again, that's Psyonix controlling their property, because naturally at the same time, if you're mucking about, in this case with their ball, with their stadium, you could be mucking about with whatever sponsorships they've got going around there, to which, again, I never understood why Psyonix never actually got real sponsorships in the stadiums. That seems to be a no-brainer, how it's done with FIFA.
When I think about that thing, I just think to myself, how much money did Logitech pay to have their fucking logo in the center of the screen at all times? Essentially, if you that's the most flawless sponsor spot you could possibly sell in any context of a Rocket League tournament. That's big money right there. If you want it, then that's it. That's right there. That's hundreds of thousands at least. Potentially millions in certain cases if you have the right numbers. That's a ridiculous amount of money that you're missing out on, and it just reeks of short-sightedness on the part of Psyonix, the fact they don't allow these kind of things. And again, this looks amazing. I don't know if Craig is still playing the video in the background. Just look at how clean it all looks, and look at how it all adjusts. There's even a good 15 seconds of gameplay example of what it would look like in the context of an actual matchup, and this is literally everything that we've wanted for ages. And imagine if we had this on an official RLCS broadcast. Imagine the information we'd have. Imagine if we didn't have to guess, oh, did he have enough boost in that case? Could he have gone for that? Could he have adjusted his car? You know, could he have been able to outplay this? Could he have thought of things a bit differently? Did he rush it? Or was he just not? Was it just a case of unluck? We won't be able to know within a broadcast unless we download the demos later on during the line. And that's like, again, it's a massive resource for colorcasters and analysts and viewers as well, who like to see the hardcore elements of the game. This is something that we're missing out on, and I feel like that this is a great thing for broadcasters if we're allowed to use it, which from the sounds of things, we probably won't be.
Yeah, this will be something that, like I said, Silence will crack down on pretty quickly, I think. But what I hope, and again, this is a hope, we haven't actually seen much in the way of content from Silence over the last year, really, have we, Jay? It's been very quiet apart from, you know, battle passes. And I think we've had 2 loot boxes this year, maybe 3. Now, I'm hoping that, you know, with the lack of... We've only had one map, which was a reskin on the beach one. I can't remember, Sandy Shores, sorry, which was making it nighttime, which isn't even in any rotations. It's still only in private matches. The same with the Hot Wheels rival stadium. That's only in private matches. What I'm hoping is this sort of like lack of content has just been them putting their resources into stuff in the back end. We know Rocket League, after being purchased by Epic, which went down about a month ago, is probably gearing up to be put on the Epic store. Everyone's expecting that to be
I mean, based off
version.
of recent price trends, that sounds like a very, very good argument to make. Fuck me.
And I'm
Jesus.
hoping we're going to get a Rocket League 2.0 or whatever you want to call it, you know, so it'd be a the play version, probably one that starts off really bare bones and you've got to grind away, like very traditional free-to-play games, Jay. And I'm hoping like this will be a sort of like there'll be tons of that added to it, like a couple of new maps as such, reworks to say the UI, because you got to think tournament mode is still fucked. Like you can't use that at all. Trust me, we tried. Like it broke an entire like our community engagement at Rewind. We were going, okay, to keep weeklies alive, let's just do some fun little in-game tournament mode. Anyone can join up. You don't even have to be interactive with Rewind. It's just us putting it out there, and if anyone sees it, gets enjoyed, they can come join the Discord server. That's how, you know, community orgs should work, really. And we did our first one and instantly realized, out of the like 12 games that could be played in this little single LM bracket, one of them worked. Like, that is bad.
Yeah, I mean, certainly that particular element has sort of like just sort of been put on the back burner. They haven't really touched anything in regards to the you know, in regards to the tournament mode, even though that could have been the push forward that we needed for RLCS qualifiers and shit, that hasn't quite worked out the way it has. Yep. You know, even then, you know, you would hope that Silence would have faith in their own tournament mode and take their qualifiers off Smash, but you know, that's not even worked out for their own respect. So you know, that's pretty
at
funny.
This point, keep it on Smash because apparently the
I'm not arguing against
stuff
that.
Don't even work.
No, I'm not even arguing against that. Like legit, like they should not take it off Smash whatsoever because that would be the worst idea considering the current state of the tournament client. You know. But again, it's like it's so unfortunate because like we've got the community making massive strides in the broadcast department. We've got the community making massive strides down here in the bubble scene that could be used to, you know, catapult the top end of the landscape. And you know, this feels like such a missed opportunity to sort of like knock this out of the way. You know, I feel like if I was Silence right now, I would be paying attention to this and saying, how can I commission this for use in RLCS? You know, or how can I commission this to be used by approved tournament organizers?
Well,
is there any exploits that we
you?
can use? Yeah, how can we work with you to implement this into the game itself? Because again, this is so fucking powerful. This is power. This is power beyond belief in terms of the context of Rocket League. You know, like this is pretty standard stuff for something like Counter-Strike, but in Rocket League, nah, mate. This like this is like, you know, smashing new ground, I think.
Yeah, and while still saying implementing it, how do we make it safe for us so that this can't be used as a hack or as a cheat, you know? It's working with your community, not just shutting it down. And like I said, from the past, we expect Silence to just shut this down. But we hope they change their ways. We hope that with Epic stepping on in, there'll be slight little differences. We know... one thing we don't have in our news bit is there was that posting quite recently on like Hitmarker looking for a new director of esports. So hopefully there is a change.
I missed this.
Pace. Did you?
Yep.
Hitmarker jobs, which again is generally where anyone within esports actually looks first. You don't get much from it, but it's useful.
Psyonix.
I remember seeing it tweeted out on...
When was this? Esports Management Program. Director of Esports, I see it. Posted 6 days ago. In San Diego, California. That would be sick as fuck, actually. Like... Anyone want to apply? Bacon, you think we've got the skills?
Definitely not. But that's one of those ones which I'm surprised.
I mean, look, right, if they can't get Shogun a visa, how the fuck are they going to get us a visa? You know, yeah. So... Right, well, let's move on from that again. It just sucks. You know, it's just like... Let's just kind of just pray that something changes about it. Again, I feel like we'd be remiss to let this whole thing go, so... Yep. Final story of the week. Kind of 2 stories rolled into one. We got a couple of casters, guys called Squidd and Yumi Cheeseman. We'll start with Squidd on this one because unfortunately he has not been renewed for the RLRS this season. This comes. I don't know. Are you shocked at this particular news? I mean, it does kind of suck. I think Squidd had a lot of potential to move forward. But it kind of hasn't happened that way. He's now not going to be on the broadcast team for the next season, which is a bit you know?
The only way I can see this being is they'll try and merge the talent from RLCS and RLRS a little bit. That, to me, can only make sense where, you know, you just whack them together, essentially, and they'll cover both. And for me, Squidd, like you said, I reckon they threw Squidd in too soon, to be honest. Personally, I love the guy. Like, I've worked with him.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like, fucking. Let me tell you, man. He was an absolute laugh to fucking, you know, chat with about RLCS seasons back during the What Talk show. You know, like he's such a good guy. You know, I don't know where I stand on his casting. Yeah. You know, I that's the thing, right? Because I know obviously like the thing with casters, right, is that I'll criticize you to the ends of the earth, but if you lose your job, I'm going to respect you because I know what the hustle's like. You know, I know what it's like to be in that position and then to lose it. You know, like, you know, I could tell you fucking many stories about how I've been cheated out of work or people have undercut me at the last second just as the ink was about to dry on the contract. You know, like I could go on. I could go fucking on and on. So there is a level of sympathy that I feel for Squidd. Again, I do sort of agree with you in that I think he came into this a little bit too early, but I think the possibilities for him as a caster, you know, they are still... pretty far gone. You know, I still think that that there's a decent opportunity for him to be able to do some good work within the Rocket League casting space.
Oh yeah, definitely. This season of RLRS would have been when he sort of started coming into his stride. You know, go back to the like days of Quinn. You remember Quinn Lobdell and that, and it was at the start he was absolutely arse, but actually by that 3rd season in RLCS, he was starting to become quite a good little color caster. So he got the stride of things. Squidd was a decent caster straight away. Again, not what I'd quiz RLRS quality, and we're just being quite blunt and honest about that. But his 2nd season in would have been good. And again, it's because we think, well, I don't know about you, Jay, but I'm sure you'd agree, just got through in too early. Essentially, you've got to be ready for it. He was a young lad. I want to say he wasn't even 20 and doing RLRS, which is crazy, you know, that's all, because you've got to have a bit of maturity to handle the responsibility and the landscape that you're working in. And like I said, he was a hard worker. He should have really, like, a 2nd season should have been given to him. And the reason why I think it wasn't was purely because there's going to be some sort of talent change-up coming up.
Yes, certainly as is case for our second point of note. And while I can understand why Psyonix would not want to renew Squidd for a 2nd season, this next part is, I believe, completely unjustifiable and complete bullshit on the part of several parties. We'll get into that in a little bit of the discussion. So, here's the tweet from Yumi Cheeseman. Some incredibly sad news. I found out I will not be casting OCE League play this season. I'm pretty devastated and unsure at the moment. Thank you all so much for your support the last 3 years. Heart, heart, heart. Still the best community. We'll let everyone know once I know what I'm doing next. And that also follows up into this little twit longer that he has. You can go read it. It's on his Twitter page. I think it might actually be pinned on his Twitter page. Don't quote me on that. I'm not 100% certain. But essentially, he explains a lot of the most commonly asked questions. Why are you not casting OCE? Who's casting OCE? Are you still going to remain in Rocket League? Are you going to do Worlds? What's the future? You know, what's going on with stuff like the Gauntlet, etc. And you can go through a couple of those things. But I want to focus specifically on his lack of a job, essentially, right now. In specific, I'm going to read to you the 2 paragraphs as to why you're not casting OCE. And to read again the full quote, the short answer is that the LPL broadcast studio is in Auckland, New Zealand, and OCE organizations do not have the money to fly talent to a studio. This was kind of expected and understandable. I disagree, but we'll get to that in a second. To elaborate further, it is up to the OCE orgs, not Psyonix, to choose, pay, and manage talent. It's a very hands-off approach to OCE. In the past, I've always lived in a city where the studio was located, though would have tried to move to a new location if it had been elsewhere. LPL did reach out to me to ask for me to cast alongside some other Aussie talent, but the proviso was that I would have to be able to accommodate myself in Auckland for the 7 weeks of competition. Since this competition is so important to me, I really did my best reaching out to family I have there. With such short notice on the announcement until competition, though, I didn't find any. I still keep searching, and maybe I can find something later on in the season, ? Right. There are several things that piss me off about this. Number one, Yumi's not getting back to OCE. That's bullshit. Straight up, straight out. That is just bullshit. Like, this guy is the voice and the face of OCE Rocket League. And any season, any tournament organizer, any studio that does not hire him has made a crucial mistake in their hiring capacity. I don't give a fuck if you don't have the budget. Make the budget, or spec it up in the original pitch like you should have done before you sent it to Psyonix, because your talents have a ridiculous amount of value. This is something that I'm really glad a lot of European tournament organisers, even at a lower level, understand. I was talking to Connie on a night out over in Switzerland this weekend, and we were talking about the way that he does TCS talent, and the reason why he'll never get rid of us, because he's taken a look at viewer trends and he realises that people come for the Rocket League competition, they come for the players playing, but they stay for the casters who are doing such a great job. And Yumi always did a great job. I don't remember a single fucking match where this guy did not perform at a top level. He is a top level OCE caster. And again, there's a reason why he is the voice and the face of OCE Rocket League. So LPL, you fucked up big time. Also, my understanding is as well, is that the other Aussie talent from the last couple of seasons also were not hired to do this LPL season, as is case in point with the next paragraph, he says, who's casting OCE then? He responds, quote, "We don't know yet. I reached out to a few of the talent in the region, and as far as I'm aware, none of them were able to situate ourselves in Auckland." So, what does that say? We have, for all intents and purposes, casters who, as far as we know, have no experience casting Rocket League. This is also backed up by LPL, who run another tournament a while back, where there's a great clip floating around somewhere of how they introduced the Order winners. Order won this tournament over in Auckland in the LPL studio, and the casters and the host had no idea how to construct emotion or, any sort of fucking, tone of sentence or tone of voice or any sort of that thing like that. It was the cringiest shit I think I've ever seen from a broadcast talent team in the world. And if that's the level that LPL are going to bring to the talent team for the OCE RLCS, you have fucked up. You have massively fucked up. This is not your shit tournament. This is not something that you're running where you're trying your best to sort of work within the means of your budget. This is the RLCS for an entire region. No, it's not EU. No, it's not NA. But no, that's not a fucking excuse. Do the job, do it right, or fuck off.
Jeez. Yep. I've got to play devil's advocate to this, don't I, Jay? Essentially, because you've got to try and, because we're a podcast, try and do both sides. You can't just have us both ranted. Now, again, knowing this from a tournament organizer's perspective, I agree, with you near enough full-heartedly. You do a lot of this. Again, this would have come down to Psyonix probably pitching this out to a lot of different studios. We can pretty much assume... Well, we know actually that the Australian Gfinity stuff has closed down. So Psyonix would have been looking to another organization, another company to be able to put on this broadcast. LPL coming forward. And this is a worrying one with LPL of its size and what they've done in the past. Again, Jay, like you said, they would have probably pretty much done this on a low budget. I don't want to go into budgets and working with Psyonix because that's not my place really to say on a broadcast. But I know these guys would have been expected to go to external sponsors because that had been within their game, and they probably haven't got in the budget from external sponsors to be able to fly in and accommodate commentators. Essentially, we want and need here. So, LPL will be using their own in-house casters to run this, which naturally makes a lot of sense when you think of it from a business perspective, that they're going to use the same talent for everything. Oh, that's a brilliant idea. We get in good casters to do all of this. But the problem is, and Jay, we know it, being a good caster in one game does not transfer to another.
Yes, absolutely.
Does it? Or, like, if I gave you the, like, just say FIFA. If you were to say like pick up FIFA, you again probably would absolutely suck balls at it. I'd imagine. Like, that's just the way.
Well, that's the thing, right? Actually, that comes back to actually a thing I was thinking about the other day. Back in my first ever Rocket League cast in 2017, I remember I just came back off the hot off the heels of doing ECS. I won the caster challenge. I did the fucking studio event in season 2, and that was a big deal for me. That was 50,000 people watching that. I got that job. And I came to Rocket League, and the first thing that I remember Unthink telling me was basically, you have potential, but you're shit right now, right? Skill is only so transferable, right? There are some basics to casting that you can transfer to other games. When it comes to game knowledge and the way you pace yourself, they are two completely different worlds. I've worked in 3 different games, and the way I conduct myself in Counter-Strike is completely different to the way that I construct myself in Rocket League. It's completely different to the way I do it in PUBG. And also this past weekend, I also did it for... I also did it for Minecraft as well, which is a completely fucking separate game entirely, Like, it's not the same. It never will be the same. Even though the skills are somewhat transferable, it still takes time to adjust. Therefore, this first weekend of action probably will be very poorly casted. That's another thing you mentioned as well with the budget for LPL. While I understand where budgets can hurt themselves, there was also a little bit of blame to share on Psyonix, right? Don't think I forgot about you guys. Trust me. You could have gone to several different tournament organizers in Rocket League. Remember this, right? You still have Gfinity to utilize. They're not going to be gone till the end of the year. They'll still be around by the time the World Championships pick up. And knowing how they do things, they will do the job and they will do it right. Not to mention, Throwdown is still a company that you could have used, but apparently because they want to distance themselves from Twitch so much, they will never use those guys. And also, here's a very smart idea. ESL AU. They're doing the Intel World Open at some point. They probably will be on site to broadcast from Tokyo because it's the easiest sort of way to bring out a production team. So why not give them the chance to learn and master the game? And here's the thing, right? You don't even have to sacrifice the RLCS because that's the thing that producers do at ESL. They focus on the product beyond a T, beyond to a T. Therefore, you'll go into the first week of the OCE RLCS, they'll smash it out the park, they'll come into the World Open, they'll smash that out the park, and that won't even be... And it won't even be a contest. Like, ESL will just be the best broadcaster and the best tournament organizer in Rocket League ever.
Well, with ESL as well, that'd be a great way to bring them back because they did do a lot over in OCE. We're talking about 1.5 years, 2 years ago, where they were running near enough the other LAN events, and they would do quite a lot. And OCE, that's where their rapid development came from, was by having both ESL as well as normal regular season running LAN events and really growing that way. Then they dropped off because they weren't making money. But Psyonix coming in, doing the whole, okay, you put this on for us, and we'll give you a little bit of a hand and try and do ESL events. Work. But one thing we're forgetting about as well, Jay, is RLO, Rocket League Oceania, a community essentially the same as what Rocket Street was down in South America, using that same scheme. So we know Rocket Street have it again for a second season. Bring on the community or work alongside them. For me, that is the cheapest way to sort of bring in a good quality content because, again, it'd be run out of Australia, where a lot of the cast is from. Try and do it that way. Again, you're going to have to use a lot of rented services and such, but as long as you're ready to put the infrastructure in for there and work with an agreement with them, that's how you get a very hands-on and good product quality approach. The difference here is just they want that hands-off approach with LPL, and we can see this is probably going to be a big blunder. That's how we think it's going to play out, and that worries us. And at the same time, I'm just going to say, the guys who did qualifiers, they saw a lot of buys and rankies on that, and for them to do qualifiers and then be left out of the main thing is very, very odd at that same time, isn't it?
I mean, not too odd, I don't think. We do the same. We do that for Counter-Strike. The talent team that works on qualifiers aren't the ones that work on the main event. So, it kind of makes sense to a certain extent. I'm doing that for Starlight left, right, and centre, and for ESL as well. So, it's pretty common stuff to have the lower level talent do the lower level matches and the lower level qualifiers, and have the big name talent do the big matches for the big tournaments, essentially.
But the weird thing is, it's going to be flipped around. You're going to have the guys not knowing shit in the main tournament, and the guys that actually know their stuff doing qualifiers.
Okay, well that also makes sense. That also is actually a decent idea to think about it. So fair play on that one, especially if you haven't got a whole lot of experience in doing Rocket League. Just another thing as well. Shout out to Nish who sent us a little image. I believe this might be a little leak that LPL also put out. So we're starting things off on the right foot here. With the way that we sort of conducted ourselves so far. Apparently they leaked one of the roster moves from the OCE region. So just like, again, there is nothing within the context of what's going on with the OCE region that fucking gives me any hope that OCE is going to have a good season this season. And it's just typical, isn't it?
Yeah.
Typical. South America gets outsourced, Europe gets done unjustified, and OCE is now going to the dogs because Psyonix couldn't be bothered, essentially.
My only hope with that is, of course, Icon getting involved with Rocket League. Remember, they picked up the old Tainted Minds roster and then turned them over to Chiefs once they brought out the Chiefs org. Maybe Icon, where they're looking to become an entertainment company, might try and put on something to do with Rocket League there, but I haven't seen them put on a tournament for anything else, so that's probably very far-fetched to see from that. But yeah, there is very little hope for OCE at the moment, and that is very scary. Okay,
it highlights a problem we've been talking about ever since the start of the show, right? How hard can it possibly be to give other regions the same care and love and attention that you give to North America? I understand that you're a North American company, but you're running a global league. Why don't you just go ahead and fucking, just go for it, just do it. ESL understood this from the word go. When they put together a global league, they fucking they made sure that all the leagues and all the all of the broadcasts and all of the tournaments in specifics in terms of format, they all had the same level of competitive integrity and attention to detail. Maybe not all of them got the same amount of budget, but at least they were able to do the most amount with that budget as possible. The OCE Pro League, for example, for ESL, they have the studio set up there in Sydney, so they can do that from within their Sydney studios. And even then, stuff like the ESL 1 Cologne qualifiers, which I did, and I got paid to do it from a remote stream. They still sent me all the assets, showed me how to do it, specifically sent examples of how we should conduct the broadcast for the sake of quality control. Same thing with the ESL Pro League relegations, which I also did. Exact same processes, exact same following of formats and shit. All of that was covered by ESL. And again, it doesn't take that much effort to do that region justice. It doesn't take much effort to do it for EU, for South America, for OCE, for Asia, for CIS, for fucking Antarctica, for fuck's sake. It doesn't matter, right? It does not take that much realistically. Rocket Penguins, man. We're going to found that shit later this week. Yeah. Bottom line.
I remember. Oh, there was a team called Rare Penguins. I remember that. Yeah,
bottom line is that this move is bullshit, and I do not have faith for OCE this season, and that fucking sucks, man, because the Aussies are a bunch of absolute lads. I still remember fucking Yummy doing backflips and shoeies and landing, right? And I still remember the fucking entrance that CJ made out on the Season 5 World Championship stage. I still remember all these things. They have the most personality of any of the Rocket League sort of players. They might not be amazing. Yeah. They might not be able to make championship runs, but at least they'll make an entertaining time doing it. And we lose something by taking away the product that those guys had. And we've taken that away. So GG, boys. Fucking congratulations. Right. Let's move on. We've rambled on the news for about an hour. Bacon wants to skip the mailbag. I don't really want to because there is a little bit to answer, and I think we've left it out for a little bit of a week. So I think we can just blast through things very quickly. I mean, I don't have much to say. I don't have much to say on the first one. Together. Yeah, I don't have much to say on the first one, to be honest. So I'll let you sort of take a hold of this one. So, again, our mailbag segment. For those of you who are unaware, if you are part of our Discord community, then of course you can go ahead and send us a question or a comment via the mailbag, and chances are we'll read it out live on air. It's exclamation mark Discord in the Twitch chat. So make sure you go ahead and do that. Or if you're listening to the audio versions or video versions of the podcast via whatever platform you're listening to, there is a link in the video description and show notes of every single episode. Click that, follow it through, go to the mailbag channel, and you can send us a question. Our first one comes from Mr. Trox. Says, Season 11 rank distribution has been released. released. He sent a link from the to the Rocket League subreddit. And we have a new record high of champs and GCs after last season with 1.02% or 0.42% in threes, respectively. What is your take on this? Should there be another rank separation in GC or MMR refinement in general? As it stands right now, even with the player base increase, it's been easier than ever before to reach GC. And then Extra Cognition, a new joiner to the server, actually put out this little sort of like a big paragraph explaining how the way things work in ranked, which is too much for me to read. Again, I'm not too much of a ranked person.
It's pretty much explaining everything and breaking it down.
I don't really pay much attention to ranked because for me, I'm just personally more about a competitive sort of like tournaments guy rather than a ranked sort of warrior. So Bacon, this is probably going to be your area of expertise. What's your impression on ranked at the moment?
So basically what's happened since, when was the ranked reset? I remember it back in Season 4, was it? Where they took, Season 4, when we had the hard reset. Essentially, since then, we've had soft resets. So there's been a steady, I'm going to dub it as a power creep, but it's not really because that's a complete wrong term. But essentially, where you set the bar at very specific levels, essentially. From how the system works, naturally, with more wins over time, that bar is just going to have more people pass on through it. So that's why currently now, like, you got to think back at the end of Season 4, I think it was something like 0.05% of players were in Grand Champion. By now, like as we come into Season 11, 0.44. That is actually a really high number in the grand scheme of things. So you got to think that Grand Champion slot should be the pinnacle. If you looked at Overwatch as an example, just because I know that's generally like the way they try and do it is they're sort of Grand Champion or Grand Master rank, and then they go into the top 500 pretty quickly after that. Now, with Rocket League, where we've got Grand Champion having 0.44% and then Champ 3 having near enough a whole percent itself, going into Champ 2 where you've got 2% of your player base in standard modes. And I'm going to be looking at standard here because that's what the game should be based on, essentially 3v3 there. Nearly 4% in Champ 1, 5.5% in Diamond 3. That is absolutely ludicrous to be looking at, where essentially you've got a very, like, near enough stable out, where if you take this to Counter-Strike and that, where you want most of your player base is to be in the sort of second tier. For us, that would be silver and then maybe going into gold a little bit. Not where the current majority of the player base is, which is currently, and I'm just quickly looking it up because I'm going to use standard again, is roughly anywhere from gold 1 to plat 2 is where the large amount of your majority of the player base is, which is too high. Essentially, you want to give them a lot of room of growth. If you want the development of your esport, you want to be able to categorically see that once you start hitting, say, Diamond, you're a really good player. You start hitting Champ 1, you're a fucking good player. You hit into Grand Champ, you're one of the best in the world, ideally near enough a top, say, 5,000 player in the world. Rocket League at the moment, that Grand Champ mark is going to be somewhere around your top, say, don't quote me on it, but I'd be imagining somewhere around your top 40,000 players there. It's getting scarily, bad, essentially. And you can't, like, 40,000 players in that point is a bit too much, isn't it, Jay? When it's the pinnacle of the game, essentially.
Okay, but if you're considering where it is, where 40,000 players could also be, 40,000 players might be 1% of 40 million players, for example, you know? So, like, for me, it kind of, it depends really on the player numbers. I think what a lot of people need to focus on specifically is where we are at the lower end. Of the spectrum, because if we're in a situation where there is less people in, say, bronze, for example, than there are in GC. Like, if there's more people in GC than there are in bronze, then we've got problems in terms of the way that our ranks are distributed. So that might have to look into something.
It's not that bad, but there's more people in, let's say, silver than there are in bronze. There's more people in gold than there are in bronze. Well,
again, that's just more because the average player is sitting there Ideally, if you wanted to see like a way the ranks distribution, if you went from low to high, you want to see like a big spike up the middle and then back down. So like down, up, and down. That's the way that it happens in Counter-Strike. If you take a look at some of the statistics, it sort of like balances out to the point where the middle ranks are where most players are at right now. And again, that's roughly where we should be. I don't think it's quite balanced in that with like, mostly a bias towards silver.
I'm doing a graph now in chat. So Craig can quickly pop this up so people can see, and of course you can see as well, Jay. But that is like what solo duel, so 1v1 is currently sitting at, is where the entire game should be at. And you can clearly see it is very, very disjointed. Like, again, standard, which is the main game mode, is a complete and utter mess when you look at it from a graph perspective.
Okay. So this makes a bit more sense now that I see that. So, okay, fair enough. Again, this isn't my area of expertise. It's very clearly Bacon's sort of area of where he sort of
This is just growth of games, because naturally this is why it feels like you've got to have your main player base like near enough your casuals in that lower area so that there's easy sort of growth through the game. You can see yourself getting better. Whereas this feels now, and we've seen it. I can remember when we were in Valencia, for example, we played on the Switch, didn't we? And
oh god, I remember this. Yeah.
Like, we picked this up and did not see any feasible difference from silver players when we first started to the end of us near enough doing split screen ranked on a Switch to, I want to say it was, we got placed like near diamond or something. There was no difference in the level of players from us sort of like watching it. It felt very jumbled up. And from just looking at stats like this, it doesn't give you the entire picture, but it shows that there's not a clear sort of like window, a clear indication of your level. It's why, again, taking that whole OMGC stuck in plat, but no, you could expect diamond players stuck in plat, and that is not a good area to be in when this, again, is a large split of the player base. And we know Rocket League, it's over 50,000 players now. I can't remember where it was last sitting at, because I'm seen a post from Sonics recently. I want to say we're probably approaching somewhere near 80 million players. Sorry, not 50,000. But yeah, that sort of level. And if you've got a large part of your player base that's probably really pushed forward when they need to be reined back in, it's bad. Essentially, it's that whole point of everyone asking for hard resets is very much justified, because you've got to reset that curve, or at least set that sort of like the standing of each area to a certain percentage, a hard percentage of the player base.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, in the end, when the numbers grow for a game, the numbers are also going to get skewed for the ranking system. And so eventually you're going to have to go for a moment where you have to like reset the way that the numbers work, reset the numbers themselves, and try and just start again, essentially. Like that's just the nature of the way that ranked systems have to work in competitive games. So yeah, I'd say it's probably justified. Again, it's not my area of expertise, so I'm not going to claim that as gospel. But based off what Bacon's saying, it seems to be the right course of action. So
my point is, a hard reset isn't needed as such, as long as you change how the MMR system works. But if you want to keep the same MMR system, you need to do a hard reset at this point, because it's been going on too long.
And there you go. That's our thoughts on ranked. Final question coming in from Exacognition. Again, new joiner to the server. So welcome, buddy. I hope you're having a great time. Be sure to get involved in the conversation. And of course, here you go. Here's your question regarding the Olympics. Quote, my own question is regarding the Olympics. I just said that. Supported event and whether... my own question is regarding the Olympic supported event and whether you think it will affect the direction of the esports, specifically in terms of pushing Rocket League more towards a sports model than the esports model. It seems like a validation of the idea that RL has a potential audience beyond a typical esport. If this happens, how do you think this will affect esports' attitude towards things like competitive integrity, both in terms of tournament brackets and structures, open access across regions, as well as professional elements such as drug testing agencies, etc.? In terms of pushing it towards more a sports model, I don't. It depends what you mean by sports model. There's like sports model in terms of like as you mentioned, like a integrity and formats, and then there's sports model in terms of sports business model. And if there's a sports business model, abso-fucking-lutely not. I don't want that. I don't think it should do like that. If anything, the Olympics sort of backing sort of supports the idea of the open circuit, which I think is the ideal circuit. I think I agree that open circuit to a greater extent will cause just absolute chaos and discord across the entire scene. But if you're able to sort of oversee things from like a governing body, which is where I think developers really should be at in terms terms of their esports games, then you shouldn't have much problems with an open circuit if everything's moderated correctly. As for the attitude towards competitive integrity, like esports already cares so much about competitive integrity. You should see the threads that went up when they announced last season's World Championship format. People shit the fucking bed, right? You should see the Counter-Strike discussions right now. Every time people bring up Refresh and the Blast Pro series, people absolutely hate the idea that Refresh own a team competing in the Blast Pro series, and they absolutely hate the idea that any sort of corporate entity should own more than one element in the context of the landscape. Like, people are okay with the fact that Refresh own a team in Counter-Strike and a team in League of Legends and a team here and there, but they aren't happy with the fact that they own a team in Counter-Strike and a tournament in Counter-Strike that the team therefore competes at. It's a very clear conflict of interest. And people went to war with Refresh about this. You should have seen the numbers for the last Blast Pro series. They were the lowest across the board. And you should have seen what happened when they brought Nicola Nyholm out on the Starladder Major. Like, he got a reaction of ranging from anywhere from blind hate to sheer indifference from the audience in Berlin that day. You know, when they brought him up to celebrate with his team, Astralis, who had just won the Starladder Berlin Major, like, people in esports care about shit like that. That's the reason why over the course of time we have seen stuff like better elements such as drug testing. That has been brought into ESL tournaments left, right, and center. You can't go and enter an ESL tournament if you haven't taken a drugs test, and you'll be forced. And you have to, there's a part in the rule book that says if requested, you have to submit a piss test. If ESL says, we think you're on drugs, please do this. That's the way it works, you know. In terms of tournament bracket and structures, that's something that we need to make progress on in Rocket League specifically, but that's more Psyonix problem than anything else, because it's only the Psyonix tournaments that have issues.
Better.
That is getting better slowly. I still think the RLCS Worlds needs a fucking improvement. I think everyone can agree to that. Even to the point that a lot was on Twitter earlier this week saying, I'd rather go back to double elimination. And to be fair, I can't really disagree with that. I personally think that they should go back to double elimination. I can see them
moving to 2 groups instead of 4 for this upcoming season. I reckon they'll make a little change there and do 2 groups of, oh Christ, in my head, trying to do the numbers quickly. That's 6. Yes, 2 groups of 6, and then doing, like, I don't know, top 8 moves out from that direction. And they do some sort of, like, I don't know, Swiss rounds or something. Who cares? But like, looking at this, like, for me, the only way you could do it more of a typical sport would be franchising, and I can't see Rocket League do franchising at all. Like, that
not with Epic's backing, no. Epic love the open circuit, so if they're going to have any control over the esport, then there will not be a franchise model, which
Epic, and you've got to look at what's currently, like, Epic have seen what's going on with the Overwatch League, and are right to be a little bit cautious about that. Blizzard/Activision are now doubling down with their COD stuff, which is essentially using the same, like, arenas as what the Overwatch League are moving to. So they'll be watching what a franchise league is, but they won't turn Rocket League into that. It'd be some future game they might be working on.
Even then, if you ever read if you ever read the reports or read between the lines on anything Overwatch League, there's nothing to be, impressed about with the Overwatch League. Like, it is a categoric failure, in my opinion, with the way that it's turning around money. I mean, investors seem to be happy with it, but I certainly wouldn't be if I was one of those guys.
It's losing money.
It's losing money big time, and they can't keep up the production costs. I think they recently also announced that they aren't going to be in the Blizzard Arena anymore because they can't afford to rent out the space, which is just like, holy shit, this has really gone downhill, guys. From a record-breaking season where you got hundreds of thousands of viewers in the first week of league play to suddenly getting accusations of potentially view-botting viewers, now losing out on your main arena and everything like that. Like, it's not franchising can only work in a small capacity. That's why Gfinity Elite Series works,
Yep.
That's the only reason why, because it wasn't in a worldwide capacity. Esports just isn't ready for it. The people in esports don't care about it enough. And they want to see an open circuit where the objectively best teams are able to win. And that's the reason why we don't have a problem in terms of competitive integrity and formats and brackets and structures, because people inherently in esports want to see those things in place. We don't have to worry about that. That's absolutely fine from the audience perspective. The only issue is trying to convince the people who think they know what they're doing to do the right thing. And that's another conversation that we can have in a whole other podcast, but we're running out of time because we are 72 minutes into this show and we still haven't gotten to the RLRS Play-in. So we're going to move on and talk about that. Regardless, thank you, Exa, for your question. And again, if you want to send a question, then it's !Discord in the Twitch chat right now, or the link is in the show notes and video descriptions of every single episode of the podcast. Right. This weekend will mark the start of RLCS Season 8 with our RLRS Play-ins. Therefore, it is the duty of myself and Digital Bacon to go through the listings of the teams and talk about the best teams from the bubble scene in Europe and see whether or not they can place highly or whether they can make it into the now 8 spots available for the RLRS this season. Of course, the expansion leaves open for 2 more spots, and 2 disbandments means that we go from the original 6 to now 8. A lot of strong competition in this one, actually, Bacon. I was going through the list, and I have to say that trying to get through every sort of like pick and trying to make my decision, like if you saw on the show notes earlier, I actually had a list of 13 teams that I thought could potentially make a run through. Of course, we have to boil that down to 8 because there are 8 spots available, and we'll be showing you our respective picks as time goes on. But yeah, I mean, overall, such a strong field from Europe this season.
Yeah, Europe is incredible, and it largely, I would say, comes down to, again, those 2 lost spots from RLRS. So, of course, you've got those players that were from previous seasons being able to come back down, and then you're mixing that in with the new talent that is coming through, largely, helpfully, from stuff like the DreamHack Pro Circuit, where that has really given us impact, as well as a lot of national leagues. We're talking Rocket Baguette doing crazy stuff out in France, as well as bringing that over to UK. We've got our own county leagues and such, and then, of course, Insomnia and Epic. The Benelux region is really popping off, and I can't wait to get a little bit closer with that in the coming weeks, which would be awesome. We know Switzerland is on the rise once again. Not entirely there, but they're on the rise purely because of what is going on over in that region. Of course, like the same can be said for Germany. And Europe is finally sort of getting its grassroots in order, which is bolstering, and we're starting to see the actual effects of that come up into the RLRS level.
Indeed it is. So therefore, this 2018 play-in bracket could go one of 128 different ways, I guess you could say. This is going to be a very interesting time. We're going to start off our little sequence by just going through some of the teams that we picked out that could potentially be ones to watch over the course of this bracket. These aren't the ones that we think are going to be our overall picks to go forward in this one. We have got 18 teams we do want to highlight about their current storylines and their current place in the scene. So we're going to go through those, and then we'll go between each of our 8 different picks for who we think will make it into the final RLRS. So, we'll start with Nordavind, Sebadam, Al Dente, and Data. This is a team that could do some great stuff, I think. You know, the problem with them, however, is the fact that... No, look, legitimately, when I was out in Monaco, I had the chance to watch them play against Ixo's team, and I think that they looked legit. You know, I think that they didn't look amazing or anything incredible, but compared to where we were still talking about them at the beginning of the year, where it was like Nordavind are just not going anywhere, I think the addition of Sebadam has sort of brought some level of structure to this team, to the point where now they could well be in a position to impress, you know. Again, I don't pick them to make it into the RLRS, but compared to where they were before, I think they have made strides to improve.
Sebadam's been in this team since the start of the year, though, Jay. Like, it has been a long time, and they don't really have anything massive of note behind them. And for me, like, they're a team that always, like, they get far, but they fuck it just before they really need to. And essentially, I think they'll probably get, let's say, top... I'm trying to think what is about top, let's say, 16. So a couple stages before the qualifying spots.
Yeah.
But they won't actually get there. And again, from what we've seen them, I have no... I could put money on them not making RORS because they've got their consistency. They're consistently inconsistent. So it's a yikes from me.
I wouldn't put money on that, honestly. I don't think I would. I have a little more faith in Nordavind, I think. Again, comparing to where they were before, I think they have made strides to improve. And yeah, Sebadam has been in there since the start of the year. You're right about that. But I also think that I haven't been able to find a way to implement him until recently. And now they're starting to look like they have. Therefore, things can actually start to look pretty impressive. Again, I'm not saying they're going to make it in. I'm going to say that they might well do. So let's see if they actually will when it comes to their play-in. Again, top 16 I think would be about on par. Anything higher than that, obviously, they're in the RLRS at that point. So there you go. So let's move on and talk about Total Shit is what this name really is.
Total damage.
Yeah, this is...
it's like a write-off. That's what the name means.
Is that what it means?
Yeah,
in,
like a car write-off.
Okay, I'm guessing that's what it means in German then. Okay, fair enough. Yeah. But yeah, there you go. Yeah, Total Schaden is the team name of Rizex, Coca, and Dumian. I think is how you say that fun. Domain. There you go. See, I'm dyslexic, man. When you post up names and words like this, I don't know how to handle it, man. Anyway, yeah.
So am I, by the way, and I never have a problem. I sort this out because I look at it and then realise I can't do stuff fast, but I just look at it and go, it's that way, okay.
Right, I just suck, right, man. I just suck, right. So, Rizex, Coca, and Domain. What do we think of these guys? Because these are some pretty impressive players. You know, Rizex being part of the scene for a long time. Coca's also been up there. Domain, I think, has also been around for a while. I don't think he's actually had the heights that Rizex and Coca have had. But this is a team that I think, again, has about as much potential as Nordavind.
Yeah, so we recently ran at Rewind the trials, the summer trials we called it, and Total Schaden came out on top, Jay. They were the team that won it all. They didn't do incredible during the qualifying cups. They came, if I remember correctly, they got 20 points over it or something like that. So they were, I want to say something like 4th seed coming into it, and they took down Notorious Legion, took down Unique Stars, and then took down Baguette Squad. Again, Baguette Squad's the one really of note there for me, purely because that is a team that, dropped out last season from RLRS. So that is a good benchmark of where you should be at. They took it in a close Game 7. It was a brilliant final. But this is a team that I don't know. It seems like they're up and down. Naturally, Rizex and Coca have been working together for ages. They brought in Domain. They're looking good, but they can be a little patchy at times.
Yeah, I mean, did they ever have any other results in the trials? Or was it just that grand final position that they were able to take? What was their performance in trial 1, 2, and 3?
So in 2 and 4, they came runners-up, and I can't remember if they got anywhere in the if they even signed up in the other ones. I'm quickly checking out. Yeah. 3. I'm just quickly checking. Yeah, they only signed up in 2 and 4. Those were the only 2 they can make. So runners up in the 2 they entered and then won the finals. It's solid considering the level that was in the the finals. Cup 2 they just lost out to Exalti, who are looking good, and Cup 4 they just lost out to Flomp Razon. So a decent level of team to lose to, and ones that we're looking to probably make the run as well,
Yeah, they've had a number of performances as well, going pretty deep into the weekly scene. What's left of it at least. They actually had a first place finish at this AMD Masters tournament that happened in Munich. Which in fairness was only a show match between 2 other teams anyway, so there's always that. They beat Golden Yeezy Man of Yeezy, Golden Nugget, and Banana Man. So. Yeah, it's not even that bad of a team. I mean, that was a pretty high price pool sort of matchup as well. And of course, you mentioned they went far in the Rewind trials, and also they qualified for some tournament called the Esports Championships Premier League, which I think is a I don't know who's organising this one actually, but it looks like it was some sort of weird European tournament that's currently going on that Ted is casting, if I recall correctly. So yeah, they've had a number of great results, honestly, and they're looking pretty impressive. This is an all-German roster, and right now things are looking.
Oh, Esports Championships.
Impressive.
I know what you mean now. Yeah, I know those guys.
I don't know.
They've got their Premier League thing coming up, and they're currently doing qualifiers for each of them. I got asked to cast for it, but Jay, we're so busy at the moment, I couldn't fit it in.
Yeah, that's true.
And I saw Tadar and Danny on that. I even saw they got Squidd in, talking about him. And they've got a couple of their own guys, like Counterfeit. I want to say does League or CS as well. I think it's League. So they're trying up new things, and it's a new org. I want to say English or something like that. And they're bringing forward a new concept.
Counterfeit. Is that Peter, by any chance?
Yeah.
Oh, Pete. Okay. Sorry, I know who you're talking about. That's fair play. Yeah, he does League of Legends. You're right. Fair enough then. Well, yeah, I mean, again, there's pretty impressive results for Total Shannon. The reason why I haven't put them as high, and the reason why I haven't put them in the top 8 for me, is the fact that this team, there's so many other good talents there, you know, and there's some also really tragic sort of teams and players that I've also left out of the top 8. That if I had to put, if I put Total Shannon up there, I'd have to put those guys as well. You know, there are some seriously good teams in this particular in this bracket, and while again, Total Shannon can make a run, and they could potentially steal it away in the last second. I don't think that's like my prediction. I feel like that the talent level is just way too high across the rest of the board.
Yeah, I don't expect them to make it through, which sucks. But again, I can see them getting as far as Nordvin. I'd rate them on that same level.
Yep, same as well. I think we can agree with that. Right. Tinny is our next squad. Tedder, Cheerio, and Chacaron. These guys, if I recall correctly, they made their way in through the first qualifier. And this is a pretty impressive lineup. You know,
surprisingly well.
Yeah, you know, surprisingly good. And obviously these guys, again, have had some pretty decent experience, you know. Chacaron and Tedder have had their sort of experiences in the Gfinity Elite Series. You know, Cheerio. Yeah, Cheerio as well. Also, sorry. The main reason why I was thinking of Cheerio is that obviously the last main team he was on was obviously the Epsilon side, which also you know, had their own independent runs. But you're right, Epsilon was his Endpoint was his main sort of team for seasons 1 and 2, and obviously he had top two finishes in those particular. In those particular tournaments in the Elite Series, one of which actually was a championship winning sort of match. So absolutely fair play to him for making that effort. And yeah, this is a pretty impressive team. You know, I don't think they've been seeing them around the weeklies. And again, I don't think they're the strongest team on the field. But this is actually a kind of a bit of a weird alliance, honestly. Like, you know, I think that the main weak point would have to be whether or not Chacaron can lead this team to a decent stance.
Shaq normally does that, and my only problem, again, probably same as you, this is a bit of a wash team as such. They're the old guard, the originals, and you do worry about that. You take it, again, this is all part of, like, we started today with Doomsee, dropping out. It's the same sort of mindset. Now, this is a team that play the cards right. They have a cracking day. Yes, they can make RLRS, but do we expect them to get there? Like the two teams we just said, probably not. And that's just the harshity of it. Like, they're not fast players, and at the moment, pace is everything in Rocket League because it leads to so many plays you can't defend.
I was going to say, most of the impressiveness of this team comes from the fact that they have such a good sort of trophy cabinet, essentially. But as you say, in terms of play styles, way too slow. And I don't think they're going to be able to keep pace with a lot of the other teams that are going to come out of the gates on this one. I feel like there's going to be a severe sort of there's going to be a severe cloud of dust that they'll be left in when it comes to a lot of the games that they'll play. So that's the reason why I didn't pick them up. I didn't put them forward. Chacaron's leadership, in theory, could coach Cheerio and Tedder to a decent championship. But again, I'm just not hedging my bets on that one for this one. You know, again, this is the washed squad. Let's see if the washed squad might be able to get clean potentially for the top 8. Unique Stars, another team of unique stars, I guess you could say. These are guys that actually kind of chilled a lot around the bubble scene for a long time, especially Gary Gorlap. But that's him, Zedo, and Alexi as part of the Unique Stars roster. This team also qualified through qualifying number 1.
MD is playing in place because they've got 4 players. Now, this is an interesting one because this, to me, feels very much like Zedo and Gary's like last shot at it, and you could probably say the same thing for Total Shannon, where essentially these are guys that have been around the community scene since, Christ, I can remember, probably since I was casting, like starting casting, I mean.
Yep.
And they've got Alexi, who has been on the Nordic scene and is incredible as a player. A bit inconsistent, however, I will say, and that's why they've also got this 4th guy, MD. And all of them really work together quite well. Again, taking the Trials, Jay, as an example, they got through to the semi-finals, dropping to Total Shannon. Again, in a 3-0, but it was a fairly close 3-0, 3-1, 3-2 overtime, and then 3-0 in the finals. And it just came down to that last game, Telshan just having them figured out, essentially. If they've gone away in the last month and worked on it, this is a team that could sneak one of those, last spots in the lower bracket,
Potentially, yeah. I feel like that is a plausible sort of prospect for them. I just feel like, though, that again, in terms of the sum of their parts, they are a pretty low-ranked team in comparison to some of the other teams that are there. I certainly would rate them lower than the total
They're
Shadow.
a wild card.
Yeah, they're a wild card team. You know, if they go good on the day, then I can see Gary Gorlop doing some decent stuff. Zedo's obviously got a little bit of pedigree behind him. You know, previously part of Unique Stars going back in the bubble scene days. A couple of decent opportunities. I think his biggest result was Frag League, where he came third in that tournament. Net himself a nice $1,000 for his team, which was, I believe, Sweaty Carry, if I recall correctly. So yeah, unique stars have a little bit of pedigree behind them, but again, I just don't think that the sum of their parts is good enough to make a run to the bracket. Just as like a prediction, you know. I think the thing to highlight about a lot of the teams that we have on this list of initial 18, is the fact that any one of them on the day could go ham and any one of them could make a run. I think that is just the key sort of thing about the play-ins overall, is the fact that any one team on the day could smash their way through the whole bracket and have absolutely no worries in terms of getting to the top 8. But that's only if their performance lines up, on the day, you know.
Yeah, Jay, I'm looking at the time here, buddy. I think we need to probably pick up the pace. I realise that's down to me. Don't worry.
Do you have a hard out?
Yeah, a little bit of a hard out, not a massive one.
Shit.
But no, don't worry. Just we can pick up the pace on this. Dream Eaters, the next one coming up. Lacombe's Pioneer and Petty DD. This is the Russian squad that have been together for so long. The short and sweet of it, the TLDR, they peak too early for this team. They'll do incredible knocking down a lot of these teams they'll do damage at the start of the upper bracket, but then they'll lose, and then they'll lose straight again. This is a team that always peaks really early.
Yeah, we've seen them in a lot of community tournaments going ham in the first couple of matches, but they don't usually make it as far as to go all the way. So, I mean, again, it's nice to see the Russians sort of concede and come out again. But at the end of the day, I don't believe that they're going to be able to make a decent run. So, I mean, I just wanted to put them up just to highlight again another team from another region that hasn't been well represented. So, yeah, Dream Eaters, keep your eyes on them. I don't think we'll see them on stream, but we'll find out. Comrade Gaming, Noah, King JS, and Cynical. Crisis was moved to the sub role from starter. He was a starter at the beginning of the year when he was playing in the Renegade Cup. There's another team of nice UK players. I like the UK teams. You know, they're pretty decent, I think, Bacon.
And this is one that could make the run. We saw back in the rival. It wasn't the pool party. It was that monthly, the Summer Open. That's what I'm thinking of. And they did a lot of damage in that. They do a lot of work together at LAN events. We just saw them play in Insomnia and that. And this is a team, if they're on the day, and again, we're going to be saying this about a lot of teams. Yeah, if it is going to be down, they could do damage. And again, another wildcard pick to sneak that last spot. But that's all we're giving them.
Right, so let's move on. WLF are back in force. Lindo, CKS, and Hyder. I don't think I know too much about Hyder, to be honest. I mostly pick these guys because they're WLF. Lindo and CKS, of course, have their pedigree, but they've been out of the professional circuit for a bit of time, Bacon.
Yeah, so again, this is Lindo, CKS, and Hyder are good players, but they're not RLRS good. Again, it would take a remarkable day for them to be able to do it, and I look at this and just go, no, I reckon they're more close to the top 32 level.
Yeah, not going to be a great sort of performance from them. Just mostly, again, that name value coming into play.
But when it comes to RLRS, any team really can show up and knock down some of the more notable names.
Of course. Well, this is a big notable name, actually, that I was debating to put these guys in my top 8. I didn't, because I put a number of other players there. The main reason, I think, is because of J Wolves. Of course, the roster of this team is Alex, Niels Cook, and J Wolves. And the truth is, I think it's a bit lopsided in that respect. We've got Alex, who's obviously former RLRS, Niels Cook, part of that old XL roster. J Wolves has had his moments, but again, he's been out of the top end for a while. You're going to shake in your head and disagreeing with me, Bacon.
I think Alex is the weakest player on this roster. And being honest about that, J Wolves has just always been unlucky on his teams. They just seem to disband around him. There's a reason he was the flip side sub. He was actually a solid stand-in way back. And this is just more of a leftover scenario, where it's good players that just could not find a team because they lost out to different regions. We know Niels got pushed out of Veloce, Alex, of course, from the whole Mouse Sports disbandment, and J Wolves not seemingly working with. He had, he was trying to get on with the E-Girls, who we'll talk about later, but just sort of lost that spot there. And so this is a leftover scenario, but one that looks surprisingly quite good.
Yeah, again, I debated putting these guys in my top 8. I just didn't do so because I wanted to reserve the spot for someone else. So yeah, I think that I think it's probably, of all the teams here, this is probably the one that's most likely to make a run into the top 8 of all the teams that we wanted to highlight. So keep your eyes on these guys. Don't be surprised that they make it forward. A team that you should be surprised that they make it forward, though, is RLRS. Sorry, Tylacto. I love you guys. So seriously, Tylacto, Rafro, Polar, I got nothing against you, but when I think reality, I think of the team that smashed it out of the DreamHack qualifiers, and you guys are not that, unfortunately. And again, I know it sucks for Tylacto. I know it fucking stings. I know that you've had a hard time with this, with your teammates going with a completely different player. But at the end of the day, it is what it is, and this team is not the team that I think could have made a run, you know?
Yeah, and again, that can be said for Rafa and Polar as well, where they sort of got hard done by on their teams that they were trying to form. And it was sort of like the same idea as Big Brain Gamers, where this was RLRS teams sort of going astray. But this was more with bubble teams here with Tylacto and that. And I looked at this day and go, why did the previous Aeriality break up? That was the dumbest move ever. But I hope we get to see these guys on stream, because Polar, out of these three, is one that could become an RLRS talent and even maybe push forward. This lad is nuts. And again, he's probably the one I feel most sorry for, if anything, there, because he should be on an RLRS team. He is that good.
Well, he was able to win it, win the last, I think, 3 Epic lands in total, something along those lines, playing with Rafa and Banana Man on Epic 27 and Epic 26. He might have also been able to have a decent time at Epic 25, although I think My Grand Said was the team that did that.
Because that's before the bigger players.
Yeah, that was. So, Polar's pretty damn decent in the UK scene. I think he was also playing in the Belong Arena Clash. So you want to keep your eyes on that tournament if you want to see where he's going to go. I think he's got a lot of potential. Hopefully we can see him play, but again, it depends whether Aeriality can make it deep enough in the bracket. Echo Zulu are a team that also need to make a deep run, because they had their flash in the pan performance at Leipzig, and then they've had nothing else since, basically. They didn't make it into the next season of the RLRS, and I don't think they can do it this time again, Bacon.
Yeah, I'm currently just quickly picking up, because I know they're playing in the, I want to say it's the Kaiser League. Give me 1 second, but they're not doing incredible there. I don't know why Wikipedia's just being slimy. It's more Chrome. They're middling in the Kaiser League. 2 wins, 2 losses. Against teams like Game Fist, Bram Swagger, Pyatrix, and Ole. Yikes. Sect 1, though Fake Out and Bilbo, that's a good squad, and I don't know why not playing under that same squad, but they're on different teams that are fairly strong, so fair enough. And MCOM, which is Mike Boy, Justice, and Semtex, that's a good squad as well. But so I can understand it a little bit more, but this Echo Zulu, again, the one that we saw make it to top 8 at Leipzig, has not had a similar performance since, and it's a little worrying.
Yeah, again, we hope for the big sort of underdog run from them to carry forward and go further on in the RLRS, but it hasn't happened, and I don't think it's going to happen here. This is the same roster, by the way, from the DreamHack Leipzig from the very start of the year, so they haven't made any major changes. Therefore, it gives me no sort of faith in the idea that they'll be able to make it happen again. Again, if their performance on the day is fantastic, then okay, fair enough, because obviously in Leipzig, they had a great on-the-day performance for 2 days in a row. Will that happen again, though? I mean, the stars got to be perfect. Hopefully the planets align. I don't know. And we'll see whether Echo Zulu will make it happen. But again, I'm not hedging my bets on this team. Neither am I hedging the bets on the Intellectuals, who made a couple of good runs a couple of seasons ago. Z9, Distan, and Shots being the Scottish player from the Belong Arena Clash, who's recently had his emergence this year. And again, this is a team I highlighted for name value alone. Again, I think that Z9 could potentially lead a good team to the RLRS one day, but I don't think this is the team.
No, and again, you're talking about that. Shots is the best player on this roster. Z9 and Distan, if they were ever to make it, it would have been about a season or 2 ago. These are guys that didn't hit it, and with the new talent coming through, I don't think they're going to be able to make it. I feel bad saying that because they're nice lads, but you got to be blunt in reality when we're talking like this, Jay.
I mean, at the end of the day, right, it's something I said to Data, right? You know, like, if we criticize you as a player, it's exclusively for your play skill and nothing more than that. Yeah. So, you know, that's as far as I'm going to go with that.
If they get to, you know, that top 12 point and, like, they're getting into those run-up spaces, we'll be supporting them. We'll be there watching the string go, do it. We really want to. A bit like Intellectuals, what was it, 2 seasons ago? But it's just that point of to be honest, beforehand, when we're doing predictions, it's not it.
Got to go with your head. Got to go with your head every time. Got to go with your head on ... as well. Maestro's back in action. He's teamed up with Saxon and Ash. Saxon's a pretty strong player, but again, Maestro's not been in a great place ever since the Vikings. You know, like he's. I think the one element that fell.
The Vikings.
Yeah, no, he's the one player that sort of fell as far from grace as you possibly could out of the RLRS from several seasons ago. So. Yeah, I mean, Saxon's a great element. I think that potentially he's the best element of this team.
Yep.
But yeah, this team's not going to do much. Not going to do much at all.
Agree on that. We need to move forward because,
Underwater Squad are a team that I believe actually you may have put them. Yeah, no, sorry. Okay, so scratch that. Excuse me. I'm going to take that team out of the list then. I fucked that up. I shouldn't be there. We'll talk about them when we come to our predictions. Svet Geneva are a team that I definitely wanted to highlight, obviously because we've been watching them for the past several weeks on the TCS Esports League. But this is a team that's not competing in the TCS Esports League. This is Mirrorwing, Hello, and Skyline. Usually Skyline will be replaced by Zafair in that regional league. And this time, they've got Skyline in. What do we think of Skyline in his context of where he fits in with this team?
With this squad, Skyline doesn't really like the national scene, hence why he's not in there. And they had to bring Zafair back in.
And here he is playing with a Swiss player and a French player. Nice.
Yeah, this was sort of like Svet Geneva trying to make the push for the international at the same time. It's a good squad, but I don't think they've actually put in enough time together because naturally Svet Geneva split between two squads. If I look at these guys, they'll win a couple of matches, like 2, maybe 3, and get to whatever that is. Top 120, top 64, top 32. Sounds about right for them, I reckon.
Look, if this team had Zafair instead of Skyline, I would say, yeah, there'd be a dark horse to make it in. You know, that's what I'd say in that respect. But I'm no more than that. I'm not going to say anything on that Svet Geneva side. Granite Gaming, Meaty Nix, and Maiden. This is the team that Doomsee is originally a part of, but now he's been benched. So that means that this team. I mean, what do you make of this team?
That means for me, naturally, I've got to say they double straight out. Otherwise, I'm a bad friend. That's just...
Fucking hell. Yeah, Meaty, Nix, and Medim. Meaty and Nix are pretty good players. The problem is I don't think they've had...
But that's probably it.
Yeah, they'll get a win. I think the problem is that they haven't had a whole lot of experience at this level, so I don't think they can make a massive run through things. So, yeah. Complex, Yeezy, Finex, Unknown. With Killer Number 7 as the sub. Killer Number 7 appropriately being the sub because he hasn't had any sort of major results. He hasn't competed in anything significant.
Not a bad sub.
Not a bad sub at all, no. But Yeezy, Finex, and Unknown, a couple of notable players. Again, I think Complex is sort of carried up by the fact that, you know, they have one of the Rocket League legends in their ranks, you know.
Yeezy, Finex, and Unknown are very strong players as well. This will be one I'll be watching. Again, I don't expect them to make RLRS, but like the earlier ones, maybe a dark horse lower bracket run where they just sneak a spot. You know, it's possible with this side because they do have a high caliber of players. But again, probably around about that top 16 mark is where we expect to see them.
And the RuneScape GFs, the RuneScape Girlfriends, which is a fantastic name. I think we've already mentioned these guys. Marky, B-Peak, and Banana Man, obviously with Marky being coming in, making those headlines on the subreddit. Wrong Way Woody is a sub. Trox specifically requested that I specify that Wrong Way Woody is on the sub-rel for this one. But look, Marky's washed, B-Peak and Banana...
Champ 1 these days? I don't know.
Something like that. I don't know. Anyway, Marky's washed. That's the bottom line of it. That's the reason why this team's not going anywhere.
Yeah, this was a team that would just scrap together. Again, another one where, let's just do it. Let's have the run. They don't have the main focus on making RLRS and probably won't. Again, a little bit like Granite Gaming. I see them 1, maybe 2 wins, but that'll be all that's on the cards for these guys.
And finally, one German team to close out our notable squads. Playing Ducks have RNZ, Nexus, FBFM, and Iravella as a sub, which is very curious, actually, because Iravella and FBFM have been playing together in the TCS Esports League, and I'd say that Iravella is actually a better player than FBFM, at least when it comes down to their recent performances. FBFM's still pretty damn good, but he's been very, very quiet in the last couple of weeks. And I think that Iravella might be in a better position in that starting role. I still think they're a strong team. But I don't think they're gonna make it, especially if they have Iravella sitting out.
Yeah, and you got to remember, RNZ's playing for Swiss Incredible Rebels as well. There, looking at this,
are they playing in the play-ins, or is it just TCS?
Just TCS.
Okay, so I thought you mentioned
I could see this being a stronger side, being RNZ, Ravella, and FBFM, purely because you got Ravella and FBFM playing a lot together. So naturally, that should be a good chemistry link. And then just having a lot of attacking prowess from RNZ and FBFM would be great with Ravella just looking to set them up. That for me should be the logical lineup, but it's just not that way. That's because the playing Ducks generally do this format on a German scale, where they play in a lot of German tournaments together. But unfortunately, yeah, again, a couple of wins, maybe 3 most, just because level's that hard, dude.
Right, and those are our 17 teams that we wanted to note that weren't part of our 8-team picks, essentially. So we've actually picked out the 8 teams that we think are going to go forward into the RLRS. And for the most part, we're pretty similar. We've got 5 picks that we decided that, yes, this is definitely going to be the teams that make it through. But 3 other teams that we kind of disagree on. So we'll start with some of the similarities, just get through those real quick. Juveniles. Which is Calyx, Breezy, and Blurry, of course. This is the core of the Aeriality squad that made those massive moves back in the DreamHack qualifiers without Tadpole this time. And the combination there is just incredible. Like these guys are looking on form lately. They are looking fantastic, and I think that this is probably one of my top picks, at least, to go through.
Yeah, you can understand the change for these guys. They're going with a player that's a little bit more mechanically gifted. Yes, they're losing a bit of the team strats, but at this point in time, with that bubble scene, the RLRS level as it is now, mechanics is everything. So you can't blame them for that one, Jay.
Now, Flomrazon is the second pick that we made a decision upon. This is, of course, Godsmiller, Though, and Noli. 3 real solid players right now, you know. Like
6 months ago, good. I would not have thought this team to...
Absolutely not, no. But, like, Noli's
actually, no,
good.
It would be just Gods, because Noli had crazy run in Renegades, and Though under MCOM was doing great. Gods, I thought, was crap, but... over the last few months, he has really redeemed himself. He's a good player again, which is great to see, of course.
Yeah, and again, Though and Noli just being solid as fuck right now. Like, this is a team that could do
Noli's the best player
damage.
And one to watch out for on that side.
Yeah, he was part of Zeno Moon, remember? That was a ridiculous side. And now he's here playing with Though, who's on top form, Godsmiller, who's regained form. This is a good squad. I think these guys are going to go through easy as that. I also think the same thing with the Baguette squad. They did replace Extra in the offseason for Ridgewell, but I don't think that affects some of their parts that much. Ridgewell's still pretty damn good, and I think we can expect to see the French lads once again make it into another season.
Yeah, they're just looking to buff up their squad. Extra moved off over to... I can't remember what team right now, but they're looking good. Baguette squad. We saw them in the trials again, and this is a side that should be able to make a run again.
Now the Eagles, the team that made the top 6 in the Montreal qualifiers. Yes, they're going to make it in. This is Ixo, Pondex, and Arju.
Oh, this
These
should
guys
be
are good.
easy for
This
them.
is going to be this is easy for them. Like, if there's 2 teams that I suspect to just absolutely smash it out of the upper bracket, it's Juveniles and Eagles. That's simple as that, you know.
Yep, the only problem I can say, Ixo and Arju have been in this case before with May Contain Nuts last season, Jay, and we know how that went. They were the strongest looking team going in to last season's qualifiers, and they dropped really early. I'm hoping that's not going to be the case again, because these guys have been ripping it up on the ESM, you know, the Rocket Baguette circuit, and they should be the strongest team coming into this. Like, if they're not rated highest seed, it's purely because we've got one other team that's just come off the back of Montreal, which we'll talk about a little bit later because we differ on that, and that is it.
And finally, the last team that we agree upon is the Underwater squad. Bilbo, Lorty, and Ocelon. They're a team that I'd say they're hard to justify because like they don't have many results lately. I don't think they've got any results in sort of the weekly tournaments, but the sum of their parts is ridiculous. Bilbo, part of Epsilon, Lorty, a fantastic player. Ocelon, obviously part of Method from last season, and probably the best part of Method from last season. Like, this is a fucking godlike team. I can see them pretty easily going through as like the last team in the upper bracket, if not easy lower bracket. No worries for Underwater squad, I think.
Yeah, we talked to Bilbo a little bit earlier in the year, and he was like, coming up to this RLRS qualifiers, he didn't know who he was going to be with. He thought he was in a real shit position. This is a leftover situation, him joining Ocelon and Lorty. Is so good. Bilbo is an incredible player. Lorty, I've never understood how he has not been in RLRS before, and Ocelon is just that solid veteran caliber, so this is a great side to see.
Indeed, yeah. So that summarizes our 3 primary picks. Let's go through and talk about some of the teams that we don't agree on, though. Let's start with you, Bacon. You've got Fadeaway to begin. Why do you... Okay, I understand why you want to do this. Yeah, Montreal is the main reason why. Here's why I disagree with you. Ignite. Yep. Like, if this was Oslon playing in this team, then that would be the easiest pick of my fucking life. Like, just easy as that. No way I wouldn't, I wouldn't count Fadeaway away from this top 8. But the fact that, again, Ignite's in for Oslon, Ignite has not done enough to prove to me that he is worthy of being in the RLRS. And for that reason, I disagree on this one. I don't think I can pick that.
I can understand that, definitely. And, of course, my justification is that T-Grey extra combo was incredible, so that should work in Ignite. Hopefully he's regained his form. The only thing is we have not been able to see this team scrim or play together, so we actually have no solid idea. But that caliber of players, they should be able to make it through. Jay, give me one of your squads.
My squad, one of the ones that I disagreed on, is actually Exalti. This is Eversax, Zafir, and Kirioni, which, of course, Zafir is the player that, of course, was the player that should have been on Servette Geneva, but the fact that he's not there means that he's here on the Exalti side instead. There's a team with a lot of potential, and especially they proved that potential in the Rewind trials. I think you mentioned it to me back a while ago, that they had like 3 or 2 victories in a row in each of these trials.
They were top team coming into the finals. They were highest. Yeah. From that.
They were hype as fuck, and they had a really, really good run. So not only have they got the potential in terms of their name value and in terms of what they've shown, they've also got the results to back it up. And for that reason, Exalti, for me, is another team that I think are going to make top 8.
Yeah, the only thing I can doubt with that is in the finals themselves, they dropped pretty damn fast, and it's unfortunate there. So hopefully they've worked on that over the last month and just got that real last hurdle consistency knocked down, because they did show times where they were incredible and other times where they were just okay.
So, your next pick is 1 BIM, 2 BAM. Steak, Mike Boy, and Justice.
This team is incredible at the moment, doing so much damage together. Mike Boy and Justice, of course, that old MCOM squad, they got rid of, though, because apparently the team just was not working together, they just had a bit of falling out. Bringing in Steak, who is incredible, and yes, they're super inconsistent, but if they have that day, it's all down to one day of the play-ins. This is a team that can make it through uppers easy. We saw them win out in that rival Summer Open and do incredible there. So I could see the same thing here. And remember, that was against RLCS and RLRS already confirmed teams,
I don't know, man. I think the results are a little bit too inconsistent for me. They got second at Rewind Trials, they got second at ESM Cup 12, but then they started dropping the top 8s and top 16s, and they only got 1 win in the ESM Cup. So it's just a little bit too inconsistent for my taste. Again, I see the potential again. My boy Justice, pretty fucking good players. Steak also. Fucking Spanish Lord right there. So there's not this is a team that again I could see doing damage, but I don't know, man. That inconsistency is really kicking me in the balls on this one, Bacon. But
right,
in their place,
counteract me with another team. Go on.
In their place, I put the Unique Stars, Zedo, Gary Gorlap, and Alexi. Actually, I probably should have taken those out of the top 17. So, my bad. I think
that's why we got 17, not 16. There we go.
Oh, fuck. That was my bad. Did I say anything against them? I probably might have done. But I've got some counterpoints to that. Look, right. This is the team that I had as a wild card, right? I put these guys in ahead of fucking Big Brain Gamers, just because I think the Big Brain Gamers are a little bit lopsided versus this team that seemed pretty balanced. They have been able to beat out the Discombobulators as well on my list, just because they have a couple of decent results as well to their name in terms of international experience. So, yeah, with the Unique Stars, I feel like, again, it's a very, very wild card pick for me, and I don't feel like there's 100% of there's 100% confidence in me on this one. And I think if there's one team that I could pick to fall out of my top 8, it would be these guys. But I think that just based off the small intricacies and the way that I've done things before, I always rate experience above sort of potential. And so these guys have the experience, therefore, I think they've got the opportunity.
And I've just realised as well, you've got Big Brain Gamers as your other one.
I really fucked this up real bad. Oh my God, Jesus Christ.
We've been on a mad tear. We've been working since last Thursday.
You know what? It's all because you fucking told me you had a hard out. So now we've been rushing this whole fucking show.
It's fine. Don't worry. So we've already talked about big brain gamers, so I reckon we finish it off with the discombobulators here, Jay. Relating Wave, Virtuoso, and Nachtal. This is a team which I would say many might overlook, but these lads have so much potential. They are a wild card spot, yes, and they will just be sneaking that last spot, but Virtuoso is like the strongest Irish player. You've got Nachtal, who's incredible from Spain, and then Relating Wave, who has just been turning up on the English scene. This is one which, if just the stars align, I can see it happening. And they have done good in the past, done great in the trials, done great in the ESM stuff. So I reckon it could happen. I'm feeling the vibes. I'm feeling the dream. It's like this team is this season's intellectuals, This is the community team that we all want to get behind.
I mean, the only reason why I didn't put them in my top 8 was, again, the fact that they haven't got a massive amount of... is a little bit inconsistent, and they haven't got a massive amount of international sort of success. So for that reason, I can see where they can go. Again, Virtuoso was the fucking lad when it came... probably one of the most clutch players at Insomnia when he played in those grand finals. So, it's credit, again, the credit where it's due to the discombobulators right there. I think that they could do some damage, but in terms of, international experience, again, I've got to rate that higher. That's the reason why I picked Big Brain Gamers, because, they have been a little bit lopsided. I think that the team could have a couple of issues in that regard, but they did post a pretty good result in the ESM Cup, so there's also that much to talk about. And I just think that I think that, again,
this
it sort of proves...
became runners-up in earlier on last week's ESM, just as an FYI.
Fair enough.
Losing out to the juveniles ahead of Flump and 2 Bim Bam.
Well, look, right, at the end of the day, I think it proves the point I was making at the beginning of the segment, was the fact that this is one of the strongest bubble scene fields that we've seen in the RLRS Play-in. So it's going to be a real fucking tough call, It's going to be a real fucking tough sort of day for a lot of these squads. And it's going to be a challenge when it comes up to this Sunday when they're going to be playing that off, It's not going to be an easy affair to make it through into the RLRS. Although there are 8 spots available, realistically speaking, it's going to be a fight and a half, Bacon. It's going to be a fucking war.
That is it. I cannot take it away. Whoever it is one of those cases. Once again, we always say in Rocket League, you play this on a different day, you'll get a different result. Essentially, we're rolling the dice on this one. And to be honest, I wonder how they're going to come up. Snake Eyes, we're going to get all 6s. It'll be interesting to see when it wraps around this coming weekend, Jay.
Indeed, yes. It all kicks off on the 29th of September, which is this Sunday. I'm not going to say anything about who's casting it, Bacon, but, you're going to see some familiar faces.
Well, it's already been announced where it's going to be. Yeah, they did. Yeah, I swear they've already announced.
Hold on. I'm pretty sure they didn't. One sec. I'm going to check this.
I think we've already given it away, to be honest, with that. It's already been announced. Over in Rival, they've got the B stream this season, and
sorry. I'm talking about the casting talent itself.
And NA plans.
I'm talking about the casting talent itself. That hasn't been announced.
But it's going to be EU's best casters,
Yeah, of course, if they left us out, mate, I'd fucking raise hell, mate. This is my employee now, so fucking I've got leverage. That sounds so fucking sinister now that I think about it. Right.
That's how Jay gets his gigs. He blackmails them, guys. There you go. And on that bombshell.
We're going to end. Thank you very much for watching. No, but seriously, again, make sure you're tuning in regardless who's casting. It could be me, it could be Bacon, it could be fucking anyone. Regardless, it's going to be an amazing time as the bubble scene looks to raise hell this weekend at the RLRS Play-ins. We're going to be keeping up with all that bracket, and again, we will be able to bring you all the results and all the details in next week's edition of Aftershock. Till then, though, make sure you're following the Twitter here at the sorry, I'm going for my Twitter there. You can follow me at the Eternal J. You can follow Digital Bacon at Digital Bacon 1. But most importantly, follow the podcast at RLAfterShock. Keep up to date with all of the podcast goings on here. Also, if you are if you're not watching live, or if you are watching live on Twitch, then make sure you can go ahead and check out the podcast that's available on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Google Podcasts, TuneIn, and many other podcast platform distributions. So Anchor.fm/RLAfterShock is the website you want to go to find your favorite service or request your favorite way to listen. If you are watching this, of course, via the VOD or audio podcast, then you can find the live version on twitch.tv/RLAfterShock. RLAfterShock going live about 7 o'clock during anywhere from Monday through Wednesday. That might start changing a little bit as the weeks go on. So again, the best place to find out is via the Twitter, mostly because Monday's TCS, Tuesday's going to be Belong, Wednesday's D&D for Digital Bacon, so Thursday might be our only fucking options nowadays. So again, you want to keep your eyes on the Twitter. That is the best place to find out when we're going to be going live. So that's going to do it for another week here at RLAfterShock. We'll be back next weweek for more when the RLRS plans conclude. Bacon, any final thoughts before we head off and you need to rush to whatever it is that you need to do next?
A meeting in 3 minutes or less than that. This weekend is going to be hype. I can't wait. Little hint. The guys over at Rival are cooking up something brand new, which hasn't been seen in this format. I mean, we at Rewind did a little something like this, which I think inspired it, Jay. But that's just me with big ego. But definitely tune in this weekend. NA is on the Saturday. EU is on the Sunday. They're messing with my Formula 1, so I'm going to have to watch a later version of that. But that's fine because I've got a QPR match on Sky on Saturday, so I'm happy about that, to be honest. But yeah, make sure you're tuning into both those days. If you can only tune into one, of course, EU, because NA still sucks. So EU is definitely the one to watch because, again, like we said, roll the dice. We don't know how it's going to come out.
Indeed. It all takes place on Sunday, so make sure you tune in and make sure you tune back in next week for even more of the Aftershock.